Hello lovely people, my name is Emma and today we're going to be talking about overhyped classics books that I didn't enjoy. So I put out my top 10 classics of all time video recently. I will link that down below in the cards wherever you put these things these days. And I asked in that one, did you want to see classics that I didn't think were worth the time and that I didn't enjoy? And a lot of people said yes to that. I don't often do negative videos. I do find them quite difficult to film. So we'll see if this ever actually ends up seeing the light of day. But if this does get uploaded, please enjoy. Now I do know that like it's very personal preference and there's going to be people out there that these are their favourite books. Classics are classics for a reason, they quite often stand the test of time, but these are ones that for whatever reason didn't really jive with me. So hopefully talking this through will kind of help you decide if you want to read them or not, and hey, maybe the reasons why I didn't enjoy them are exactly the kind of things that you love in a book. So a negative review doesn't necessarily guarantee no one's going to read your book. Sometimes the negativity is exactly what I am looking for in terms of like, you know, when they highlight stuff and you go, no, I like that in a book, so I'm gonna go check it out. Anyway, that's enough caveats which you always have to put to these bad videos, because otherwise everyone comments down below that you're a terrible human being for hating on a book even though the author's now dead. And let's jump in, shall we? The first one I kind of hesitated even including on this list because I didn't finish it. I know I don't often talk about books I DNF'd on this channel, but I think the fact I didn't even finish it is indicative enough, and I got really far through it. This is a chunker of a book, okay? I did enough to count for a book in its own right, and that is David Copperfield by Charles Dickens. I feel like Charles Dickens is one of these real Marmite authors. People either absolutely love his work or absolutely hate them. The only other one of his I've read is A Christmas Carol, and I read it at school, so I don't really know where I stand with him. So maybe going into the biggest one ever was a mistake, but this just did not work for me. I didn't care about a single one of the characters, and it was way too long-winded, and I couldn't see us going anywhere. So this is interesting because I'm in the middle of reading War and Peace at the moment, which I absolutely love, and that one is a much longer book than this one and definitely was quite long-winded at the beginning. But for me, I just really struggle with Dickens's writing. I tried it in physical form, I tried it in audiobook, I tried several different narrators. I could not find anything that worked for me, and I found myself skim reading and tuning out constantly, which I feel like if that's happening, that really is a sign to just put it down. And I think for me it very much was a stylistic thing that I just couldn't get behind any of these characters and didn't care, and we weren't going anywhere fast enough, so not my scene. The next one is The Catcher in the Rye by D Salinger, and this one I read years ago, so possibly it would be better on a reread, but I read this as a teenager and it is about basically just another moody teenager, and I didn't like him. I found him a really unlikable character and I didn't enjoy being in his head at all, and I found him incredibly whiny and irritating, and honestly reminded me of a couple of people at school who I didn't like to hang out with because they were also whiny and irritating and thought that their ideas were the absolute most interesting, groundbreaking, oh my god, I'm a teenage boy who's watched Fight Club twice, aren't I just so riveting, fuck the system kind of energy. And for me, Holden Caulfield really like tapped into that vibe. It was something that I was not interested in engaging in. Now again, I know this one is a firm favourite, a classic, and speaks to so many people's souls, so that is entirely fair enough if that is what is vibe with you. And like I say, I did read this one a really long time ago, so maybe coming at it as an adult I would appreciate it, but honestly I don't jive with teenage boys' points of view. That's not something I like to read. I slam a book in my February wrap up because of exactly that, so I feel like me and The Catcher in the Rye just need to part ways. There is definitely a recurring theme of unlikable characters and me just not being able to get over them, and I know I'm going to get some heat for this one, but Jane Austen's Emma did not work for me. Again, I've read Northanger Abbey, I've read Persuasions, I loved both of them, really enjoyable. I could not stand Emma. She was so annoying and I was so insulted we had the same name. I just found her meddlesome and irritating, and I know that's the point, but it doesn't mean I want to spend any time with her. And I also really didn't jive with her and whoever her love interest is. I didn't really buy it, and it felt the end a bit creepy and a bit forced and was not my scene. So yeah, not my favourite, and definitely has actually put me off reading Austen for a little bit. I am intending on reading an Austen book this year. I think I'm going to go for Sense and Sensibilities, so hopefully that will bring me back to loving Austen, because this one has left a bit of a sour taste in my mouth. So if this is your favourite, I'm really sorry, but I just wanted to slap this silly little girl that Emma is. The next one is The Haunted Hotel by Wilkie Collins, and this was actually my first experience of reading Wilkie Collins, and I found it so freaking boring. It made perfect sense why my parents got it for me. It's set in Venice, which is a city I love and I've been to twice, both times with my dad, and holds a lot of fond memories for us. And it's sort of a creepy, haunted, like bit of a crime thriller mystery vibe, but it did that awful thing that some books do where you get like all of the intrigue, the mystery, and then somebody pops up at the end and just reveals it all in like a letter, or they just like monologue, or like there's, you know, they get caught telling another character and they just like do the evil supervillain thing of just like telling exposition wise all of their grand plan, and that's how we crack the big mystery. And that is really not my scene at all. I have subsequently since read another Wilkie Collins. I've read The Moonstone and really enjoyed it. So I think possibly one of the problems as well was at the time of reading The Haunted Hotel, I wasn't reading any classics really. And possibly there was a writing style thing that I hadn't like got my head around and got into. Because I'm pretty sure The Moonstone has a bunch of exposition shit that I just like slagged off. So maybe I'm a little bit hypocritical. I do have The Woman in White both in physical form and audiobook, and I need to check that one out next. But it's also a chunky boy, so I'm kind of avoiding it for now. I've got plenty of chunky books on the go at the moment. But yeah, very much sort of polar opposites. Love The Moonstone, found The Haunted Hotel really, really dull and not a good enough payoff at all. So do let me know in the comments down below if you think I should maybe like go back and give it another chance, if I've just described something that like The Moonstone does completely as well. I don't know, it's very hard when you like read books years ago and then your reading taste changed quite a lot and you're like, well, I didn't like it at the time, but would I like it more now? Was it just like right book, wrong time, or is it genuinely wrong book? Who can tell? One that I'm fairly confident is definitely just wrong book because I didn't like it right now. And that is The Great God Pan by Arthur Machen. This is actually 3 short stories in one. I'm not a fan of short stories. It's a well-documented fact on this channel. Met very few short story collections that I actually enjoy. I just don't think they have the room or the time to sort of breathe and do justice to the characters. These ones I read 2 out of 3 of the short stories and they were basically identical. So I was looking at the third one being like, I don't think I need to waste my time on you. And I just found it frustrating because the Great God Pan like is based in an actual mythology. There is a god Pan, and this book doesn't touch on anything from that and kind of just nicks the name and then does something that it wants to by itself with it. And I felt like that was quite disrespectful and just not very interesting, and I like it was fine as a story, but it wasn't exactly gripping and it just felt like it'd been hyped for no real payoff. So yeah, not my vibe, not gonna check out any more from him. Then we have The Death of Grass by John Christopher. This is a relatively unknown dystopian, or I guess no, post-apocalyptic feature, and it's about a virus that kills off all types of grass and grain, and then the knock-on effects that has on the food ecosystem, and in doing so it kind of shatters our society. I really enjoyed that world-building part of it, and I do actually think that you should possibly read this book if you're interested in like post-apocalyptic books, because it was quite fun from that perspective. The thing that I really struggled with just was that it was wildly misogynistic and had a lot of violence against women through it, and it really just didn't do enough with the characters. It felt like there were a lot of very unnecessary scenes, like I say, depicting violence against women, and I know it was written a while ago, but that doesn't really excuse it because there were other books that didn't need to go this kind of graphic, and I didn't really feel like it explored the grass stuff as much as I wanted it to. It was kind of the initial setup and then we sort of moved on from that quite quickly, and it fell straight into like your classic Walking Dead, other kinds of things there, factions shooting at each other, resource issues, etc. And it wasn't very interested in exploring the idea that it pitched at the beginning. So because of that, that's why I didn't read it. But if you're a big fan of post-apocalyptic books, then this one I think is a classic that you should add into your roster. If nothing else, just kind of experience it and see what it's doing differently or the same as other ones. But if you are not someone who enjoys reading violence against women or finds that one quite unsettling, like there's definitely some sexual assault in it, it sucked. So yeah, maybe, you know, tread with caution. The next one is At the Mountains of Madness by H.P. Lovecraft, and I just found this one really boring. And you know, I've not read any other Lovecraft because this one just completely put me off. I know Lovecraft is such an iconic name in classic horror. The idea of the Lovecraftian, like looking into the void and the void stares back at you, the horror of like knowing too much, etc, etc, and then some like Cthulhu shit in the corner. But it just didn't work. I was so freaking bored the entire time. And I know H.P. Lovecraft also bumps into some horrible issues with, I think, primarily race. I know he's got a bit of a dicey background. A lot of his work can be quite problematic, which, you know, classics often are because they're a product of their time, but how much you want to engage with them because of that fact is entirely up to you. But for me, like, this was dull, so why would I put myself through that given I wasn't interested in the first place? So yeah, just not my scene. And again, there's probably gonna be some massive Lovecraft fans who are like, dull? How dare you? But mate, I was like asleep. I'm sorry, not for me. The final one is The Turn of the Screw by Henry James, and this, again, I respect what it did for the genre, sort of a very early, I think, Gothic. Actually showing my complete ignorance about English literature in sort of the canon as a whole, but hey ho, moving on. But for me, this one was, again, just really boring. I think the writing was just incredibly inaccessible. The sentences went on for days. It's that kind of one where one paragraph is an entire freaking sentence. By the time you get to the end, you've forgotten where you started, and there's like clauses embedded with clauses, and it's just a style of writing that we don't have anymore, and I just found it too impenetrable. And again, because of that, I wasn't really that bothered about the characters or about the sort of main mystery of the book, so it just felt like I was doing a lot of work for not enough payoff. So I can respect what Henry James has done, and I might try another Henry James. I think he has Daisy Turner, is that what it's called? Daisy somebody. So I will try it again to see if maybe with a different subject matter, or, you know, getting my head into classics a little bit more. Possibly it was a bit early on in my classics reading, not sure. But yeah, maybe I'll try again, but at this point in time, Henry James is a big no-no for me. So there you go, massive bummer of a list, a bunch of classics books that I think are not worth the time. Do let me know in the comments down below, have I just absolutely roasted your favourite? If so, I'm really sorry. Feel free to go to my favourites one and just tell me that all of my opinions are shit, and that's completely fine. And how do you feel about classics? Do you think that they're frequently overhyped? Have you found any that you've really loved? Let me know everything in the comments down below. Have a wonderful reading week, and I'll chat to you soon. Bye.